All righty. The good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. Let's start with the good. Well, first off, the weather yesterday was, boy, much welcomed. Really, the weekend in general was pretty darn good, but that's not the good. The good happens to be what I was doing in the good weather yesterday. So last night, wanting to wrap up the weekend with the girls and figure, you know what, let's do a little fire pit in the driveway. So we're out in the driveway. We're having a little bit of a fire pit. They're roasting marshmallows. We're trying to make sure that their hands aren't, getting burnt off, and especially one of the two. Always the younger one, right? Trying to stick her hand in the fire and the whole thing. So we're just enjoying ourselves. Got their marshmallows roasting and the whole thing. And my neighbor comes walking down the street, and he says to me, "Hey, I just wanted to share the story with you." And I'm like, all right. He says, we were at church this morning, and he's got two boys. His younger one is 4, like Claire. And they're leaving church, and they're talking about church. And he said his younger one was rambling off all these things he was grateful for and what he learned in church and the whole thing. And then he says, "I've got 2 prayers as I'm leaving church." And his parents say, "Okay, what's that?" "My prayers are for my soccer ball and Pete." And he's like, "Wait, what?" "Yeah, like our neighbor, Pete. I'm praying for my soccer ball and for my neighbor, Pete." And I'm like, well, I'll take all the prayers I can get. I'll tell you that right now. But I was like, all right, I got 4-year-olds in the neighborhood saying prayers for me. So that tells you a lot about where I'm at right now. But I'll take every prayer I can get. Whether
Absolutely.
4 or 40 or 400, John, sign me up for a prayer. So thank you for the prayers.
Those are the honest and genuine ones. Yeah. For sure.
I'm in the bucket with the soccer ball, his favorite soccer ball. So I'm in good
Might as well
company.
be Woody and Toy Story. Right?
Oh, gosh, but I was cracking up all night at that story. I was like, all right, that's pretty good. The bad coming out of the weekend. Well, Jesse Waters. Did you hear what Jesse Waters said in his show on Friday? And I like Jesse Waters. I think he's pretty funny on Fox News. Now, I haven't really watched him since he replaced Tucker. I don't think what's the best way to put this? The intellectual depth is there that you would want in that time slot. I think Jesse Waters is great on the 5. I think that's where he shines. But you think about the intellectual depth of Bill O'Reilly and Tucker Carlson, regardless of what you think of them, there's a lot of depth to both of those men. Jesse's good, but I'm not sure how much depth there is. So Jesse's talking about Trump's mugshot, which I told you on Friday was a 10 out of 10 mugshot. I mean, you can hate Trump. That's a hell of a mugshot. All right, looking right into your soul. Face looks thin. It's a badass look he's got going there. But Jesse Waters took it to the next level when he said this over the weekend and what went viral.
I am now going to book the Fulton County photographer for my Christmas card. Because, Judge, and I say this with a unblemished record of heterosexuality, he looks good. And he looks hard. And I am now...
He looks good and he looks hard, says Jesse Waters about Donald Trump's mugshot. Okay. All right. All I could think of was George Costanza.
Can I say one thing to you? And I say this with an unblemished record of staunch heterosexuality.
Absolutely.
It's fabulous.
Right away when I heard that, I thought about Costanza.
He ripped George Costanza straight up.
Oh, he totally ripped him. And I can appreciate that part of it. But that he didn't just say he looks good. He looks good and he looks hard. And I'm like, what are we going for here, Jesse? What is that all about? I mean, jeez. Oh, come on, Jesse.
Did the word aggressive elude him at the moment or something like that?
I don't know. Right? I don't know what he was going for there, but just leave it as he looks good. He looks tough. I mean, I could think of a million words that come to my mind.
All the kids say he looks aggro.
Yeah, something else. Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh. Yeah, there's Jesse Waters for you. All right. And then the ugly, speaking of cable news, Kamala Harris was on Reverend Al Sharpton's show.
Show some RESPICT.
And, they did a little tour of Kamala's office, and, well, here's what that sounded like.
I think so much about, I talk about, we talk about the arc. I think about it as also like a relay race, and those who carried the baton and were measured by what they did when they had it, and then they passed it to us.
Yeah. Well,
and the point will be, what do we do while we're carrying the baton?
Before we pass
it. Understanding that the race will never be over. But the question is, what do you do in the time when you're carrying the baton?
That's exactly right.
Right?
That's exactly right, says the Rev. Now, they were talking about the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington and civil rights. And besides the fact that Kamala Harris takes, 50 words to say what most people would say in 12, it's like a college essay. She's trying to get to like the word number that you have to get to. Besides that, I found it interesting how she says the race will never be over. Well, that's their plan, to use race as a wedge forever. It can't be over. Because then hucksters like Reverend Al and charlatans like Reverend Al and many of his ilk will be out of work. They can't become multimillionaires by using race as a wedge if it ever ends. If they accept progress, if they admit progress, their business model's over. So besides the fact that it was just a word salad from Kamala Harris, it was also very telling when you read between the lines of that word salad as to what was being said. The good, the bad, and the ugly. There it is from the weekend here on KCMO Talk Radio.